The movie begins with stuntman Colt Seavers, played by Ryan Gosling, reflecting on the significance of those in the stunt industry in the world of entertainment. Despite the physical toll his job takes on him, Colt persists because of his love for camera operator Jody Marino, portrayed by Emily Blunt, who aspires to be a director. While working on a project with Hollywood star Tom Ryder, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, Colt suffers a serious injury during a stunt gone wrong. He decides to step away from the industry and from Jody. 18 months later, Colt now works as a valet driver and has not had any contact with Jody since the accident. When he encounters a former colleague who mockingly calls him the Fall Guy, Colt reacts by aggressively returning the man's car and performing dangerous stunts in front of him. However, his life takes a turn when Gail Meyer, played by Hannah Waddingham, a producer who frequently collaborates with Ryder, offers him a job as Ryder's stunt double for a new sci-fi film called Metalstorm, revealing that Jody is directing the project. Colt arrives on set and reunites with his friend, stunt coordinator Dan Tucker, Winston Duke, who informs him that his first major stunt back is a cannon roll. This news dismays Colt as he fears he will mess it up in front of Jody. The crew proceeds with the cannon roll stunt, watching as Colt's car tumbles across the beach. He sticks his thumb out to signal that he is fine, a habit he picked up as a stuntman. When Jody realizes Colt is the stuntman, she's not pleased to see him after such a long absence, contradicting Gail's earlier claim that Jody specifically requested him. For his next stunt, Colt is set on fire and propelled against a wall. Afterwards, he and Jody attempt to dissect the scene while awkwardly discussing their relationship in front of the crew. With most people appearing to side with Jody, Gail visits Colt in his trailer to inform him that Ryder has gone missing after getting involved with some shady people. She tasks Colt with finding him within the next 48 hours to save Jody's film production. Afterward, Colt sits in his car, reminiscing about his time with Jody while listening to Taylor Swift and crying, until Jody arrives and he has to play it cool. She gets in the car and discusses how crucial the film is for her, and he promises not to derail the production. Colt heads to Ryder's apartment to look for him, but is attacked by Iggy star Teresa Palmer, Ryder's girlfriend and the lead actress of Metalstorm. After a chaotic scuffle, Colt realizes Iggy is wielding a prop sword. He tries to explain that he's searching for Ryder for the sake of the film. Iggy tells him to check a nightclub where Ryder hangs out and look for his drug dealer. Dressing flashy to gain entry, Colt arrives at the club and meets the drug dealer, Dune Matus. When Colt asks about Ryder, Dune hands him a drugged drink and orders his guys to deal with him. Colt starts to trip, but manages to take down 3 goons before chasing Dune outside as he tries to catch a cab. Colt jumps in front of the cab, preventing Dune from escaping. Dune reveals that he was paid to drug Colt and directs him to a hotel to find someone named Kevin and ask for a fruit platter. In the midst of this, Colt hallucinates seeing a unicorn. At the hotel, Colt encounters Jody, who vents her frustration about the studio interfering with her film's love story. He then meets the concierge, Kevin, Ben Gerard, who hands him what he calls a fruit platter, but it's actually the key to Ryder's hotel room. After several unsuccessful attempts to unlock the door, Colt breaks in by knocking it down. Jody calls him, and they engage in playful banter about ideas for the film. Later, Colt discovers the corpse of another stuntman, Henry Herrera. He contacts Gail, who advises him not to speak with the police, but he disregards her warning when an officer approaches him about his illegal parking. When Colt mentions the body in the ice-filled tub, the officers accompany him back to Ryder's room, only to find the tub completely empty. Despite this, Colt still receives a parking ticket. The next day on set, Dan complains that Jody seems to be inspired by her conversation with Colt, as she has come up with bigger and more complicated ideas for the shoot. Colt stands in for Ryder so they can use deepfake technology to insert Ryder's face into the final product. Later, Jody invites Colt out for karaoke and he agrees to join her. On his way to karaoke, Colt runs into Alma Martin, Stephanie Shu, Tom's assistant, along with her trained dog, Jean-Claude, whom Colt has worked with before. When he asks Alma about Ryder, she reveals that she last saw him and Henry at a wild party before Gale called her away. Alma has obtained Ryder's phone as his head of security, Dressler, Ben Knight, has been hounding her for it. She suspects there's something criminal on the phone and is willing to turn it in, but she insists on receiving producer credit for Metalstorm. Colt says he will see what he can do. Just as Dressler tases them both and abducts Alma in his truck. Determined, Colt grabs Jean-Claude and steals a truck to chase after them, while Jody waits at the karaoke bar, disappointed by Colt's absence. Jody takes the stage to perform Against All Odds, Take a Look at Me Now, while Colt fights off the goons after he and the dog manage to get onto their van. Jean-Claude bites the goons, creating a distraction, and then moves to the front to help Alma subdue the driver. They successfully stop the car, and Colt crashes through the windshield but emerges unharmed. He then runs with Jean-Claude to the karaoke bar, only to find Dan there, who informs him that Jody has already left. Colt and Dan give Ryder's phone to fellow crew member Venti, Zara Michaels, to hack, but she needs his password. The guys head to Ryder's apartment and sift through his collection of post-it note reminders until they find the password written in plain sight. Once Venti unlocks the phone, Colt and Dan discover a video of Ryder, Iggy, and some friends with Henry, who makes a joke about Ryder not doing his own stunts. In the video, Ryder attempts a stunt but accidentally knocks Henry over, resulting in his death. Moments later, Venti calls Dan to inform them that the news is reporting on Henry's death and naming Colt as the prime suspect. Soon after, Dressler and his goons arrive and open fire on Colt and Dan, who quickly spring into action. During the chaos, Dressler shoots and destroys Ryder's phone from Colt's hands. They fight off some goons, and Colt manages to escape, outside, jumping onto Ryder's boat and crashing through the roof. He then finds himself face to face with Ryder before getting knocked out cold. Colt wakes up to find himself tied up, with Ryder demanding his phone back. Ryder admits to killing Henry and framing Colt as the fall guy for the crime, revealing that the entire cover-up was Gale's idea after he went to her in tears. He also confesses to orchestrating Colt's accident because he felt Colt was stealing his thunder. This unfolds just as Gale is meeting with Jody to inform him that Colt is the suspect in Henry's murder. After Colt acknowledges that Dressler destroyed the phone, Ryder orders his goons to douse Colt in kerosene to set him on fire. Colt manages to get some kerosene in his mouth and spits it at Dressler when he attempts to ignite him. Colt then jumps onto a boat, trying to escape while steering backward. He attempts to contact Jody, but Gale intentionally gets her phone wet before Jody can answer. Eventually, Colt reaches Jody and tries to explain his situation, but the villains chase after him, causing his boat to crash and explode. Although Colt jumps to safety, he is presumed dead and labeled a suicide. Meanwhile, the villains use deepfake technology to place Colt's face on Ryder's body in a video depicting Ryder killing Henry. Colt reaches Dan and gets help sneaking back onto the set in disguise as an alien from the movie. Jody mistakenly beats him up due to the confusion until he reveals himself. Before Colt can explain, Jody surprises him with a kiss, but the moment is interrupted by Gale outside. Jody hides Colt and listens as Gale talks about Colt's supposed death and mentions attempting Jody's big car jump stunt for the film using VFX, while also focusing on Ryder's epic final monologue. After Gale leaves, Colt and Jody devise a plan to get Ryder to confess to the murder by having him perform the car jump himself. Since Ryder will be wearing a mic and often forgets he's being recorded, they believe he'll speak unfiltered. The crew prepares for the big scene and shoots Ryder's monologue. Jody convinces Ryder to get into the car by saying she needs a close-up of him. Colt then reveals himself and drives the car away, prompting Dressler and his goons to pursue him. Jody and Dan manage to keep the goons off Colt long enough for Ryder to admit to killing Henry and to say that Gale orchestrated the frame job. Colt then performs an epic jump across a canyon, knocking Ryder unconscious. Afterward, Gale calls for a helicopter to pick her up and Ryder after stealing his confession tape. With Jody's help, Colt is thrown toward the helicopter, where he fights both Gale and Ryder until he retrieves the tape and jumps down onto a crash mat set up by the crew at the right moment. Colt and Jody celebrate their victory with a kiss. Metalstorm eventually hits theaters, with Jason Momoa replacing Ryder as the lead actor. The film becomes a major success, and Alma receives her producer credit. Colt remarks that while the heroes in the film got their happy ending, he and Jody got theirs as well.